Okay, guys, nice to have you all. And yeah, this is again the post-match presentation, post-match podcast with me, I've read Army Kolkata. I'm Arpan, and today I have Haider with me. And yeah, so Haider, I'd ask you to introduce yourself first.
Sure. Thanks for having me on, Arpan. So my name's Hayder, and I run a Premier League podcast. I'm a Man United fan for a long time now, but I've just started since September. Been doing Premier League podcasts, trying to cover as much as the Premier League as possible because we all love to talk about Man United, but perhaps as fans we don't always get a full knowledge of the other teams when we play them. So I do that with my two brothers, and recently now I've started interviewing more. So I've been interviewing United Link the other day. He came on the podcast, and a few others. So yeah, just going on slowly and just enjoying the football to be back.
Yeah, that's great, man. United Link. He's a pretty good guy to talk to. He's pretty informed. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I think what's really good about him is that he's very well researched in his opinions. So he's always going and he's doing as much research as possible to formulate a balanced opinion. And it's sometimes quite difficult as Man United fans because we love our club so much, but we're not always non-biased, But sometimes we think that, I don't know, maybe Rashford is the next Ronaldo. And so it's nice sometimes to see someone with a big following who, takes time to analyze things and give a good view of it. So yeah, good guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree to you. So, Haider, what is your take on the match today? Because yeah, we won 3-0. The first match was I would say it was a hiccup. The first meeting, it went 3-3. But today it was a complete domination. What is your take on the match?
I think before I start, I think it's really important to say that although it looked like an easy victory, Sheffield United have been very, very strong this year. And to win 3-0 like that and to dominate them like that, because they didn't really create anything. I can't remember. I think there was a shot near the end where De Gea saved it, but it was one that rolled towards him. I don't remember them threatening our goal at all. So I think it was probably one of our best performances this season. What I really liked is the fact from the start to the finish, we performed, but also the manager got the correct lineup. And for me, I think when we look at the Tottenham game, I don't think he got the correct lineup. I think that's what cost us the game in the end. So it was our strongest team on paper. So there was really no excuses not to get the victory. And what I really enjoyed seeing was the understanding between Pogba and Bruno, as a lot of us are really excited
to
see.
We are excited. Yeah.
Because the thing is, we all know that they're both world-class players, but I think the issue is that you can be world-class on paper, but it might not work in real life. And they both play in a similar way. I think the worry is the defensive side of the game, because if they're both attacking, we need someone to sit. So I was very happy to see Matic play, and he played very well. And then I was happy to see the front three, which I've wanted to see for a while. I think Daniel James needs to sit out for a while because I think although he's had a decent season, he's not ready to be starting for Man United in any capacity. So I was really happy to see Greenwood. And on top of that, a clean sheet is really important because our defence can look shaky at times. Although statistically we're one of the highest clean sheet holders in Europe, I don't think that really always translates to what we see on the pitch. I think there are deficiencies in the defence. So to look that calm and disciplined throughout the game was really, really positive.
Yes, I would agree to you completely. And one of the biggest points for me, from this that I have understood from the starting 11, in the Tottenham Hotspur match, I think teams that sit back and defend, that is not basically something that Daniel James can handle really well, because he likes to run. He likes to run, and the teams that sit back and defend would not give him the space to run. So with Mason Greenwood, he brings in the depth. He drifts inside. He can shoot with both his feet. Today, I think we saw him shoot one with his right foot, and he can link up with players. And he has grown up with some of the players in the team. So yeah, he has that edge over Dan James, and he has a guile about him. So which is which has been one of the biggest improvements in the team. And I do think I do agree to you when you say that the defense today it looked more assuring today, and it was largely due to the presence of Matic. Matic was amazing. He was
100%.
pivoting so well. Yeah, he was holding the ball. He was picking up the right pass. And Pogba, if you see in the start of the game, Sheffield United actually had five players to cut the line between Pogba and Matic. So Pogba was in the middle, and then what he did was he started drifting outside, and Bruno dropped in, so that gave him a lot of freedom to play. And I think Sheffield had no clue. I think this Man United side with Pogba, Bruno, Matic, and Rashford, Martial, then Greenwood, Wan-Bissaka. This was, I think, way out of their depth. They looked way out of their depth. I'm like fair play to Chris Wilder because he didn't have like three of his most crucial players,
Yeah.
and yeah, he lost Egan due to suspension, and Henderson, not having Henderson
Henderson.
was, yeah, that is like a big problem for them. But at the end of the day, I think if they were there, I don't think there would have been much of a difference in the scoring line. And with we could have scored actually couple more goals if
Yeah,
Rashford
absolutely.
coming to
Was
coming to
on form.
Rashford. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I do think he looks a bit rusty. See, I do not want to sound overcritical, but yes, with Rashford, we do expect a lot of things.
I
What
think
is your?
it's a good that's a good point. I think let's start with Matic. I think
Mhm.
I tweeted this during the game that he is the key to Man United's success because when you're playing, so when I look at the midfield, I actually strike some similarities between Man City's midfield and Man United's, not in terms of the end product, just in terms of personnel. So City, Pep's sides always like to play with two in the midfield three, two very attacking players, David Silva and Kevin De Bruyne. And what's been the key for Man City over the years in their title-winning sides has been the fact that they've had Fernandinho, who's been probably the best defensive midfielder easily in the
Yes.
Premier League, perhaps even in Europe for a long time. And when you saw against Tottenham, I think I really like Scott McTominay. I'm very happy he signed a new contract. But where I have an issue with him is that I don't think he's a defensive midfielder. I don't think he has the discipline yet. He's still young. I don't think he has the reading of the game. And I don't think he has the passing range that Matic has. And then with Fred as well, he's a box to box. He's shown many times that he can't play in the defensive role. So Matic is the only one that really can play there. And what you saw is that he provided that stability and that platform for our attacking success. So you saw that we attacked more freely. You saw Pogba and Bruno pulling the strings. I think what you saw initially was that Pogba started very deep with him. And when we didn't
Yeah.
have the ball, they sat in the two, and Bruno is a more creative player. And then when we got the ball back, Pogba moved forward. Matic just shielded, and whenever there was a break in play and Sheffield United got the ball, Matic would clean up, and that is so key. And then you're looking at Pogba, and this sounds funny, but the thing that I actually think was most impressive about Pogba is he was actually quite quiet today. He did a few really good things, like the trick in the box, and he nearly shot, but he was quiet. And the reason why I say that's positive is because he was disciplined. He did what he had to do. He didn't go and try to play the ball in his own half, dribbling. He just played the passes, kept the ball ticking, and I thought he was excellent. And then you got Bruno Fernandes, who is just so infectious in his energy, his quality. I don't think there's been a Man United player that's settled as quickly as Bruno Fernandes has, especially with that bigger price tag. We've seen a lot of very good players like Di Maria, Falcao, Depay that have come in with big price tags and who have just flopped at Man United or they failed. Bruno Fernandes has come in and he's lifted the whole club. Before he was in the team, before we signed him, I think Oli was looking at the sack, if I'm being honest. We were not beating the smaller teams. We were playing with Lingard and Pereira. You can see that Rashford and Martial make those runs, and now Bruno's finding them. Pogba's finding them. But they were making those same runs even back before Bruno came, but nobody had the quality to find them. And now you're starting to see that Bruno's linking people in. He's playing closer to Martial and Rashford. He's playing those balls in, and we looked very, very, very dangerous going forward. But on to Marcus Rashford. I thought he was brilliant for the first goal. His cross, he drove it across the 6-yard box. And what I like to see Martial do is get in there and run at the near post and go for the goal, and he deserved that. Marcus Rashford's been injured for a long time, and I think that it's going to take a little while for him to, sort of get his composure back in front of goal. I wouldn't say he's the most natural finisher. I think if you look at Martial and Greenwood, I think is a more natural finisher. I think those two are both far superior in that aspect of their game. But what Rashford does bring is his link-up play is phenomenal. His passing was very good today. His energy, he can beat a man. So, yeah, I think what's interesting, you said you don't want to be too negative, but I think it's important that we don't also, forget about the negatives, because that's how you grow, right? Constructive criticism helps you to grow. So I think
absolutely.
So I think that's the problem is, as United, this, United fan base, that you say something perhaps negative about a player in a constructive way, it's seen as being bitter or it's seen as being plastic. And I don't think that's the case. I like to try and be as balanced as possible. So I think that Marcus Rashford has everything in his locker to be a world-class footballer. But if he wants to make it to that next level, he needs to be scoring in 1 or 2 shots. He can't be taking 4 or 5 and scoring 1. So it's that clinical aspect of his game and his finishing. So hopefully under Oli, he can work on that in the training ground. But that front three with Greenwood, Martial, Rashford has to start now till the end of the season.
Yeah,
and on Mason Greenwood, I think you can see he's got bigger, hasn't he? He's clearly growing.
Yeah,
he's still only
absolutely.
18.
Yeah, absolutely.
He looks more like he's filled out. And yeah, he looks a completely different prospect than Dan James on the right wing. And I'm very excited after what I saw.
Yeah, man, I'm excited too. Now, talking about Rashford, there is a very important thing that you mentioned. Pogba didn't try to do much. Do you think it has something to do with, the positivity aspect of Bruno coming into the team? Because now Pogba knows that he does not necessarily have to do all the creativity. With Bruno in the side, I think there is the added pressure that has been taken off his shoulders. Now we can play more freely. Now we can, and the thing that you mentioned, Matic, I think with the passing range and his composure on the ball, I think Matic is exactly the thing that Pirlo was, exactly the player that Pirlo was to Pogba. When Pogba was in Juventus, he was playing so well. So Pirlo was very composed, very good on the ball, had the passing range, used to sit with the defense really well. And that took a lot of load off Pogba. And with Bruno and Matic in the team, I think Pogba, we can see him become that player again. We can see him play with a lot of freedom. And what do you think with the Rashford? Yes, I did say that he looked a bit rusty. But on the flip side, he did get 2 assists. And Rashford Martial, this partnership, I do not want to jinx it. I do not want to, be too early to it. But
Yeah.
I do see a very telepathic communication, almost a Dwight, like York-esque. I don't know if that's a word. But yeah, man, I am hopeful.
No,
What is your take? Yeah.
agree. Okay, so on Pogba, completely agree. And something that I did think when we signed Bruno is that when you play Man United, this before pre-Bruno signing, if you're looking at midfield of Matic, Pogba, and maybe Fred, or Matic, Pogba, and Lingard, who's the most creative output in that midfield is Pogba. It's very easy to defend against when you just put a defensive midfielder on him all game. An opposition manager would say, look, mark Pogba all game. And then what happens, and we saw under Jose, that Pogba used to drop really deep, pick the ball off the centre-backs, and then try and play a long pass here, a long pass there. He's a great long passer, but it's easy to defend against. And so you talk about Matic's Pirlo. I completely agree. And something I think people need to understand about Paul Pogba. For me, Bruno Fernandes is the main man. He's the leader in that side. I don't think Paul Pogba's ever been the leader. He's never had to be the face of a club. When he was at Juventus, he was in the midfield of Pirlo and Vidal. Vidal was prime Vidal, and Andrea Pirlo, I don't need to say much more about him. He was world class, one of the best. And what Paul Pogba did, he just played his game. He was allowed to drift into the left, pick up those pockets, and just play the way that he plays. And what does he do best? He's creative. He picks up the ball. He can dribble past players. He's got great vision. He can shoot. I'd like to see him shoot more. I don't think he shoots enough. And then what you're seeing now with Bruno is that opposition defenders are having to also mark Bruno, which means that Pogba has much more freedom. He has much more time in the ball. He can pick out a pass. So 100%, I think what you're seeing with Man United's midfield is you're seeing that we're now starting to try and get the most out of Pogba. And it's no coincidence that when you have more creative players in your team, then the chances are going to start flowing. For too many years, even under Fergie, Man United's midfield was not good enough. But the man was a genius, and somehow we won the league with Anderson and Cleverley. But
Yeah, seriously.
and when I look at Matic, I see the player I think he most similar to is Michael Carrick, I would say.
Yeah.
Not so much in the range of his passing, but I wouldn't say Matic is a destroyer like in DD. You know, he's not someone that dives into tackles, but he's very clever. His positioning, his passing, he's very underrated, his passing. And you're starting to see the Matic of Chelsea days. Now, going on to, I think, Martial and Rashford's, you know, as you said, their relationship, I completely agree. I think it's very, very, very exciting because, and we saw it early on in the season. Remember that goal against Norwich City where they played the 1-2s? Incredible. And I think the issue that we've had as a fan base is that when Martial was injured, Rashford had to do it himself, and Rashford was getting criticism. When Rashford is injured, Martial was getting criticism. I think people have to understand they're both very good players, and I don't want to compare them because they both have different qualities. I don't pick one over the other. I support both as they are. Yeah. But what you're seeing now is that it's clear that when you've got two of your best players out injured, then the other one's going to struggle. So what I like from Martial is that he made a lot of good runs during the game, and his link-up play and hold-up play was brilliant. I criticised him after the Spurs match in my own podcast. I said that I have doubts whether Martial can lead the line for Man United. And the reason why I said that is because I don't doubt his finishing. He's very clinical. He's a great finisher. He's very skillful. He can beat a man. He's a very clever player. But he doesn't have enough movement to be a top number 9 at Man United. Today, he completely proved me wrong, and I'm happy to say that because I don't have an agenda. I don't care if I'm wrong. Fine, that's good. I want to be wrong because I want him to be the man that leads us. I want to see him do more of that movement. I want to see him test the central defenders. I want to see him pulling them apart. I want to see that more because, and that's the thing with Martial, that one week he can do this, he scores a hat-trick. The next week he'll do what he did against Spurs, and he won't do anything all game. So it's about getting him to, and he's growing in the role. It's about getting him to work harder, getting him to be more active, show some more desire. But I think we've seriously got an exciting partnership on our hand. And if we sign Jadon Sancho, then, you know, we're looking at probably one of the most exciting front threes. Yeah, I think it's going to happen. If I'm being honest, I think it's going to happen. I don't know if we'll sign many more players, but I think we have to. Because what we saw in this game compared to other games is against Spurs, we were very predictable. Man United have been predictable for a long time. Our last good right winger was Nani years ago. Man United have always had a lopsided attack where we know everything's coming down the left. And we'll talk about Wan-Bissaka and the fullbacks later. But, you know, you see that Shaw is overlapping Rashford. Rashford's having to do everything. But with Greenwood in the side, a lot more of our attacks came down the right. And then they also switched. The wingers switched earlier on in the second half. I don't know if you noticed. And that's what we do under Fergie. Because you know what? It's about causing problems for the fullbacks and the opposition. So I think it's early days, but Martial and Rashford have definitely got an understanding. We've seen it on numerous occasions. What I want to see from Martial is more movement, and he needs to be scoring 20 goals a season because the number 9 of Man United has to do that. And from Rashford, I want to see him be more clinical. And if they can both do that and add consistency to their game, we will have two of the best forwards in the Premier League.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Fingers crossed for that. Now, coming to this match, I have some, I can call it some pointers that I've taken down. So one of them is, what do you think about the strategy? Do you think Chris Wilder, like he was too predictable? Because again the same strategy without Egan, they had like nothing. Like Phil Jagielka, he's 37. You do not
Yeah,
expect
go.
him to, yeah man, he's old. Like with all due respect, I love the player, but he's old and he's past his prime. So for him to cover like that pace of searing pace of Martial, and Rashford, and then the guile of Bruno Fernandes, that is, I think that would have been a bit too much to ask for. Now, the thing I saw in the beginning, I think, I don't know whether you have noticed the same. Rashford was actually staying down a lot of the times. Both Rashford and Mason Greenwood. Now, what this was doing is this was pulling the side backs towards them, leaving
Yeah.
space for Shaw and Wan-Bissaka to overlap and fill up those spaces, those pockets, little pockets. Now, do you see this tactic being used more often? Because then Rashford and Shaw, I think, from the left side, they were putting in balls for Martial's run down the channel. So do you
Mhm.
think that this can be one of the newer strategies in the Premier League, or newer strategies in Manchester United?
Let's start with Sheffield United. I think Chris Wilder for me has been the manager of the season. I would give him over Klopp, and to get Sheffield United challenging for the Champions League after they just got promoted, with largely the same players that they came up with, they weren't big spenders, is an incredible achievement. I think they've overachieved massively, and unfortunately for them, the break due to COVID came at the wrong time because their momentum's just gone, and I think they had two or three two injuries or suspensions to key defenders, and it doesn't matter who you are. Even with Man United, if we had Lindelof and Maguire out, we'd be looking at Bailly or Twinzabi or Phil Jones, someone like that. So whatever team you are, if you have two injuries to or suspension to key players in defence, it's going to cause problems. I think I agree. Maybe he's been too rigid in his approach to his tactics. Maybe he could have gone to a back four. But what we did really well, and you make a great point, is that it's very similar to Liverpool. Liverpool play with inverted forwards. So you have Firmino dropping deep, and then you have Mo Salah, and you have Sadio Mane making those runs, diagonal runs from out to in. What you saw today, and I think what we lacked against Tottenham, and Tottenham are a difficult team to play because Mourinho will always sit deep, low block. You have to be very creative. You have to lots of movement. I think what we did today is we brought Rashford and Greenwood closer to Martial, and yes, we used the fullbacks for width, and that's the way I like to play because I feel like in the modern game, the fullback is actually one of the most important players on the pitch or positions on the pitch because what they do is they provide an extra attacking outlet. And you can play that because if you've got Matic sitting there, he can cover sort of just in front of the centre backs or even cover the flanks. And what you have then is you have Pogba and Bruno pulling the strings. I really liked it. I think it worked because one, I think Ollie saw that their defence was weak. Jagielka's old. He's not the quickest. So pulling him through, Martial pulling him wide was always creating more space in the middle for others. And I also think that because it's three at the back, they exposed the spaces between the wing backs and the centre backs. So I think it's something that can work. But the only way it works is if the fullbacks are providing that attacking outlet and they're providing quality from their crossing. And we spoke about this off camera, I have doubts whether our left back is, whether it's, look, I really like Brandon Williams. I think he's very talented. But you can't be relying on a 19-year-old to be the left back of Man United for a whole season, in my opinion. He's not ready. Luke Shaw had a terrible injury, but he's looking decent. But he's only got 6 Premier League assists in his whole career. 6. That's it.
That's like
So,
Aaron
so
Wan-Bissaka. Like he has 3
yeah,
in this season itself.
yeah. I think what you're seeing with Wan-Bissaka, and I think you're seeing him improve in that attacking play in the final third. His cross for Martial was brilliant. I mean, it looked easy, but to find the player with a low cross like that, and his finish was brilliant. But to do that, He was not doing that at the beginning of the season. So you've got to give credit to Ollie, and you've got to give credit to the coaching team for improving him. And in the past, I haven't always been Ollie's biggest fan, because I think that, you know, with the squad that we've got right now, it's very strong and we should be doing better. But I like the tactic of bringing and changing, swapping flanks between the two wingers, because what it did is it created much more variety, much more, you know, sort of attacking threats, I think. But what I would do is I would look to always play the three in midfield, because unfortunately, if you keep on changing things, you can't create that consistency. So
Yeah.
I think in later games, because all of our teams now we're playing are quite lower placed teams, we need to be on the front foot like we were today. We need to be dictating the play. We've got the midfield to do that now. So I want to see Martial making those rounds. I want to see Rashford and Greenwood pulling their defence left to right, wherever, and creating those pockets of space for our midfield.
Yes, absolutely, Haider. And I really agreed to you when you said that yes, Wilder was a bit too rigid with his formation, but the thing is, against these teams itself, against these teams, even if you remember in the first match when we faced Sheffield, actually that was Phil Jagielka in that team also.
Yeah, he
So
started, didn't
it
he?
is, yeah, he started that team, that match also. So it's not really just the lack of fluidity in the Sheffield team, but it also the clear improvement in Man United personnel, in Man United players, and I think I can see a proper, a proper plan when I see Ole and his team play. The approach is a bit more clear compared to last season or the season before that, when you'd have to actually research a lot to find something that why are they
Yeah.
doing this. Yeah, I think there has been a bit more stability in the team with Matic. And yeah, anything, any other partnership that you actually see? For me, what I can see in this Man United team is that there are a lot of possible partnership. We have already spoken about Rashford and Martial, and there is a Pogba and Bruno partnership. And
Yeah.
on the left side, Shaw, Rashford, Martial, and Bruno. These four people can pair up really well. On the right, we can see Wan-Bissaka and Greenwood. No, so there are a lot of partnerships brewing. But let's come to the real question. Let's come to defense. A lot of like Lindelof has received a lot of stick throughout the
Yeah.
season. I find him to be really calm on the ball, really cool. Yes, today there were a couple of hiccups. Maguire played really well, but let's talk about Lindelof.
Yeah.
What do you think about him?
It's very interesting because let me ask you: are you a Lindelof fan? Do you think he's a very good player?
Maybe not a very good player, but I think Lindelof can be. Yeah, he does have that weakness on the aerial
Yeah.
ball, but
Yeah.
otherwise, I think he's pretty calm. I like that part
So,
about him.
yeah. So for me, I've been saying since the beginning of the season that my favourite centre back pairing, and this is going to be, a lot of people disagree, but I said it'd be, this is initially Lindelof and Maguire, because I thought clearly Ollie wants a ball playing centre back. He wants to build the attacks from the back, and
Absolutely,
that's one of the
absolutely.
reasons why we got rid of Chris Smalling. And Chris Smalling, I love Chris Smalling as a person. I think he's brilliant. I think he's a good defender, but he was hopeless at playing with his feet. And you watch, he's gone to Italy now, and I've watched him a few times at Roma, and he's been one of the best centre backs. But he's awful. That, and he pulling in the shirts at corners and giving penalties. But Chris Smalling is a better defender of the aerial ball than Victor Lindelof, I would say. When I saw that him and Lindelof and Maguire were starting when Maguire joined, I thought, you know what, it's amazing, because now we can start attacks out from the back. We don't have to put the ball long. We can start from the back, passing, bringing the midfield into the game, being able to pass the ball, long ball, because Lindelof's got great vision and that ability. I thought this is brilliant. But the biggest problem is, and I think Harry Maguire is not worth 80 million, but Harry Maguire has improved Man United a lot, in my opinion. If you look at the way that he brings leadership, because he's now captain, he's good under the high ball. He's a presence at the back. It's a positive. But the issue is that when Maguire was at Leicester, they played a deep line. Now you're not Man United are always on the front foot. They have to be. They're a big side. They play a much higher line. Neither Lindelof or Maguire are quick. So, and you saw against Spurs, Maguire got turned by Bergwijn, and then Lindelof. It's not Lindelof's fault, but I'm saying that if someone quicker was next to him, you need someone quicker next to Maguire to make up for his lack of pace. And Lindelof isn't that player. Now, you can put Lindelof into a Pep Guardiola side, and he'd be a dream because he's a Pep Guardiola defender. He's perfect on the brilliant on the ball.
Absolutely.
He reads the ball really. He reads the game really well. His interceptions are brilliant. But in the Premier League and English football, it's a physical league, and you're going to be bombarded by high balls. And you go to Watford, and Troy Deeney is going to cause problems. You go to play Burnley, then Chris Wood and Ashley Barnes are going to cause problems. And time again, Lindelof has shown that he can't deal with the aerial ball. It's been nearly 3 years now, and he still can't do it, which suggests to me that he's not learning and he can't do it. Simply can't do it. So initially, I didn't think we needed a centre-back. And if you look at Man United's options, they've got Axel Tuanzebe and Eric Bailly. Both of them on paper actually are much better suited as defensive partnerships with Maguire than Lindelof. But when you can't keep fit, as Bailly can't, he's injury prone. And Tuanzebe's got a bit of a worrying injury record, if I'm honest. I mean, we haven't seen him for a long time because he's been injured. Then how can you rely on them? So I think in that respect, Ollie's had to settle on Lindelof and Maguire. But if Man United want to win the Premier League, I don't think you can win it with that partnership, if I'm being honest. I don't think it's good enough to win the Premier League. And so, although Lindelof was actually brilliant today, I thought he had a great game. And you know what? People need to understand that if someone's had a good game, even if you don't like them, you say they've had a good game. You be objective. And there's too many people that have an agenda against Lindelof because there always has to be someone, doesn't there? You know, it used to be Lukaku. He's gone now. So now it's Lindelof. So I think they're building a good understanding, but there's always the issue, I think, in the back of my mind that what's going to happen is if they make a mistake, they have a mistake in them, essentially. So if I look at that back line now, Maguire's safe because he's captain. Ollie isn't going to drop him. Wan-Bissaka's safe because I think he's one of the best, or if not the best, defensive fullback in Europe, in the world. I think Luke Shaw and Victor Lindelof are under threat, and I think they're two areas we should be looking to invest. Who we should buy, I'm not sure. I mean, I think Koulibaly is obvious for anyone that watches football. He's a great player, but he's too expensive. It's too expensive. We can't afford him in this window, or we won't spend that money. So for me, when I look at partnerships across the pitch, I think Rashford, Martial. I think the midfield have got great balance to it. Early days, we'll see. And I think Wan-Bissaka needs someone who he can play with week in, week out on the right wing. And I hope that's Jadon Sancho.
Yeah. And that is, So I'll keep my fingers crossed to that. As much as I love Daniel James, I love the guy. I love Dan James, but I think Jadon Sancho would be an upgrade. And with Mason Greenwood providing the depth in the squad, I think today when we actually saw when I was watching the game, I saw that this Man United side with a couple of changes, maybe one in the defense and one in the midfield or in the right wing. Maybe this team can actually win a league. This is a league-winning side. Like we have leaders in Lindelof, in Maguire, in Bruno, and then we have players who can run the channels, who can actually contest for the ball, who have the hunger in Rashford, Martial, and then Mason Greenwood. And we have and Wan-Bissaka, what a revelation he has been. Wan-Bissaka, I think he has been one of the biggest factors for our success because you just cannot put in a cross down his wing. You go to the right wing of Manchester United, you're getting nothing from there. You're absolutely getting nothing. And he has improved a lot, which brings me to another question. Who are the exact players? Like we have been linked to a lot of players. I know that this might
all
not
the
be the
time.
right question. So like almost the entire world has been linked to Manchester United. I don't even know, like I'm wearing a Manchester United t-shirt. I might be linked to Manchester United.
Everyone's linked because you know what? If you get linked to Man United, you sell newspapers, and two, you get a contract increase. So when you go into work next, you say, "Oh, Man United want me," to your boss, and he'll double your salary.
Yeah, I know who you're looking at.
Yeah, exactly.
I know who you're looking at.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So, yeah. So, do you have any particular player that you might want to have in the team next season, apart from Jadon Sancho? That one is like,
Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
If I'm being realistic, I think Jadon Sancho is number one. So I think we'll sign him. So that one's ticked off. I'd like to see more depth in midfield, and you make a point that you're saying that you think we can challenge. I just something I think we can challenge, but there's something that's telling me that the team still need to grow a bit more, and the team, like you're saying, that the pattern of play. So we had issues where we were just a counter-attacking side. Now we've got a strong midfield, a creative midfield. We're able to break teams down, but I just want to see more tactical flexibility. I don't want to see us rely on individual brilliance too much, which we did against Spurs. If it wasn't for Pogba with the amazing shimmy and go past him. So in that respect, I like to see. I have doubts whether the players are being coached on the level that City and Liverpool are. Because look, we're being honest here. If you don't think this, then you have to be honest that Liverpool and Man City have the best coaches in the world. Jurgen Klopp,
yes,
as
they
much as
are.
I hate
They do.
Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp's an incredible manager, and so is Guardiola. Guardiola spends a lot of money, but you watch the way he's got his City. City, you know how they're going to play. Like you got with the wingers stay really wide, the two midfielders they pick up those pockets of space, in between the midfield and the defense, and they're just so ruthless. And then Liverpool as well, they're pressing hard. And I think one thing that I want to see Man United do more, and we did. I know we're going off topic, but something I want to see them do more is that after the first goal, we didn't go all out for the second goal. There was a little bit of a period
Yeah.
where we allowed Sheffield United to come back into the game. Then we scored before half time. But I want to see United take the game by the scruff of the neck like Liverpool do and win. And they're winning 3-0 after half an hour, and then the game's over. So I think I would like to see Man United improve in the midfield because Bruno and Pogba can't play every single game. So I like the sound of Van der Beek from Ajax. I think he's a brilliant player. He
Yeah.
he he's versatile. He can play deep. He can play box to box. He can play attacking as well. Because you look at Man United's bench. I don't want to be bringing on Lingard or Pereira because that's such a big step down. And people say, oh well, one of them will have to. Van der Beek might be on the bench. Well, he's got to fight for his place. And when you've got more quality in the squad, the levels go up, and the players are better, and they just hit the pitch as better players. So I'd like to see us go and bring another midfielder in. And if I'm being completely honest, I want a new left back because if we're going to be relying on our fullbacks to provide that width, I don't think Luke Shaw offers enough going forward. I would keep him in the squad. There's not to say that I would get rid of him because when we play three at the back, he's a very good left centre back in a three with Maguire and Lindelof. Ollie's played him a few times. He's been very good.
Yeah,
He's just
yeah.
lost. He's just lost something going forward. He had a very bad injury. He's just not the same player in that respect. So, who would I like? I like Tagliafico from Ajax. We're not linked to him, and I like Chilwell. I think he's too expensive, and Alex Telles. I believe he plays for Porto. So,
Yes,
I think
yes.
that. And for me, I think that centre back, we probably do need someone who's a little bit more, who brings us to the next level. Someone that's more physical than Lindelof, someone that is quicker. I'd like to say Eric Bailly can do that, but I can't trust him to keep fit. So I'd say, yeah, right wing, left back, and a midfielder. And then next summer, we have to buy a defensive midfielder because Matic is, he's world class when he plays like this, but he can't play more than one game a week. He's old, he's 31, his legs can't take it. So if he doesn't play, then we have issues again. McTominay, I want to see him grow more, but I'd like to see us look at Zachariah that plays for Mönchengladbach in the German league. I'm not a
Hmm.
fan of Declan Rice. I like Ndidi, but he's too expensive. So that was what I would do in the following summer for sure. And you bring those
Yeah, man.
players in, and I think you've got a chance to challenge. I think.